Leo sits in a crowded room. People laugh and talk. He watches the clock. He is physically present, but his mind remains behind a thick glass wall. The noise feels like static. He smiles when others smile. He nods when they speak. Inside, his brain scans for exits. He is a ghost in a suit. This is not shyness. It is a biological calculation. The brain has decided that other people are unpredictable variables. Isolation is the only mathematical constant for safety. Early silence creates a specific internal architecture. When a child spends years alone, the brain builds a fortress. The walls are thick. The gates are rusted shut. The nervous system learns to find comfort in the absence of others. It treats social warmth as a threat. Connection feels like a dangerous loss of control. We call this hyper-independent processing. The individual functions like a closed circuit. No energy enters. No energy leaves. The system becomes a self-sustaining island in a sea. The eyes observe, but the heart remains offline. This is the unseen machinery of a life lived in a quiet room. The body is never truly there. The silence of the past dictates the noise of the present. A child who was not seen becomes an adult who refuses to be found. The pattern holds. Isolation rewires the software of the soul. It turns the need for love into a fear of being trapped. The individual prefers the cold over the fire. Every social interaction is a performance. The mask is perfect. The actor is tired. But the script was written long ago. The play must go on. Young Sarah waits by the window. Her parents are busy. The house is large and very still. She learns that her voice does not change the environment. She stops calling out. She creates worlds inside her head. The carpet becomes a forest. The dolls become her only friends. The outside world starts to fade. The brain is highly plastic. It adapts to the environment it inhabits. If the environment is empty, the brain optimizes for a reality consisting of one person. Social neurons require mirroring to grow. Without a mirror, those neurons begin to prune away. The brain decides that social intelligence is a luxury it cannot afford. The child learns that needs go unmet. To survive, the child suppresses the need. The brain labels wanting as a source of pain. It deletes the feeling. This is the formation of the avoidant attachment loop. The child becomes her own parent. She provides her own comfort. She builds a world that is small. By age 10, Sarah does not seek help. She fixes her own toys. She handles her own fears. The brain celebrates this as a win for survival. Independence is a survival strategy, not a personality trait. The brain believes that depending on others leads to certain death. It chooses the safety of the void. The nervous system sets its baseline to 0. Any input from others feels like an overload. The circuit breaker trips. The child retreats further into the mind. The isolation becomes a cocoon. Inside, it is safe. Outside, it is chaotic. The brain learns to love the silence. It treats the quiet as a protective shield. Social cues become a foreign language. The child watches others play. She does not understand the rules. She decides the game is not worth the effort of learning. The machinery is now installed. The gears are oiled. The patterns are etched into the gray matter. The child is ready for a life of quiet, lonely strength. The brain has successfully adapted to neglect. It calls this adaptation strength. It calls this wall freedom. The blueprint for adulthood is now permanently signed and sealed. The individual moves forward, carrying a silent room inside. Every future relationship will be measured against this void. The void usually wins. The pattern is set. If this is already making sense to you, it means you're starting to notice patterns most people never see. Subscribe, and let's keep exploring how the mind really works. Now, this is where things start to get uncomfortable. Leo enters the office kitchen. A colleague smiles and asks about his weekend. Leo's pulse spikes. His brain identifies an intruder in his private space. He speaks perfectly. He shares a small, safe detail about a movie. While he talks, his mind is already calculating the fastest route back to his desk. The social script runs on autopilot. He mimics the warmth he sees in others. He tilts his head. He laughs at the right interval. The mask is seamless. Behind the mask, the amygdala is screaming. It perceives the small talk as an interrogation. It views the kindness as a hook for a hidden trap. Awareness lags behind this execution. Leo does not realize he is holding his breath. He does not feel the tension in his shoulders. The machine just works. The brain bypasses conscious thought. It has categorized the colleague as a predator of time. It treats the interaction as a tactical withdrawal. By the time Leo sits down, he is exhausted. He does not know why. He only knows that being around people feels like losing blood. The mechanism of emotional shielding operates in the shadows. It filters every word through a sieve of suspicion. It discards anything that feels too close. The individual believes they are just introverted. The reality is a high-speed defensive maneuver. The brain is burning massive amounts of glucose to stay hidden. The execution is flawless. No one suspects that Leo is terrified of being known. They see a quiet, competent man. They do not see the cage. The pattern repeats 20 times a day. Each time, the neural pathway for isolation grows stronger. The brain rewards the escape with a hit of relief. The relief reinforces the danger. If leaving feels this good, the brain concludes that staying must have been life-threatening. The cycle remains unbroken. Sarah receives a thoughtful gift from a new friend. Instead of joy, she feels a heavy weight of debt. Her brain signals a red alert. She immediately plans a way to pay it back. She cannot sleep until the balance is zero. To her, a gift is a leash. It is control. The brain maintains this isolation because it provides the illusion of total sovereignty. If no one gives, no one can take. The ego remains untouched. The payoff is the absence of disappointment. If the individual expects nothing from the world can never break their heart. This is safety. The brain values this predictability over the messy rewards of intimacy. Intimacy is a variable. Silence is a constant. The brain loves constants. There is a secret pride in this loneliness. The individual views their detachment as a form of superior self-reliance. They are the only one they need. The machinery interprets needing as weakness. By staying isolated, the brain maintains a God complex of one. It is king of a very small hill. This internal reward system is a closed loop. The brain produces its own dopamine through task completion and solitary hobbies. It does not need external input. The cost of this freedom is a slow death of the spirit. But the brain does not care about spirits. It only cares about the absence of threat. The mechanism turns the heart into a vault. The individual holds the only key. They sit inside the vault, wondering why the air is so thin. If you've noticed this pattern in your own life, describe the moment it became clear. Someone reading may recognize themselves. The brain will defend this vault at all costs. It will sabotage good relationships to prove that people are unreliable. It creates the evidence it fears. The pattern is a self-fulfilling prophecy. The brain seeks the cold because it knows how to survive it. It fears the sun because it might melt. Leo describes himself as a lone wolf. He wears the label like armor. He tells his co-workers that he simply prefers his own company. The brain has taken a defensive maneuver and turned it into a personality trait. It creates a narrative to explain the constant internal walls. The behavior is no longer a reaction to fear. It is now who Leo believes he is. The machinery has successfully integrated into the ego. Role solidification happens when the individual stops questioning the silence. The isolation feels like a choice rather than a programmed response from the past. The brain filters out any evidence that contradicts this identity. It ignores moments of loneliness. It focuses only on the peace of being completely alone. The individual becomes a specialist in self-containment. They take pride in needing nothing from anyone. This pride is the glue that holds the mask. The social world is viewed from a distance. Leo watches others and feels a sense of quiet superiority. He thinks they are weak for needing. The machinery of the self is now a closed system. It does not allow for updates. It only seeks to confirm its own lonely, rigid truth. Identity becomes the ultimate prison. The bars are made of I am statements. The individual is trapped by their own definition of being strong. The past has finally conquered the present. The child who had to be alone is now the man who demands to be left entirely alone. Sarah walks into a party and hears laughter. Her brain does not hear joy. It hears a coordinated group that she can never truly join. She sees a couple whispering. Her mind labels it as conspiracy. She sees a hand on a shoulder. Her mind labels it as heavy pressure. The brain uses the isolation filter to process every visual cue. It looks for reasons to stay detached. It finds them in every single blink. Perception is not a window, it is a projector. Sarah projects her internal desert onto the greenest fields. She sees only dry, cracked earth everywhere. The machinery distorts the intentions of others. A compliment is seen as a manipulation. An invitation is seen as a chore that must be survived. The individual lives in a world of ghosts. They see the shadows of past neglect on every new face. They react to ghosts, not to people. If you've noticed this pattern in your own life, describe the moment it became clear. Someone reading may recognize themselves. The brain refuses to see the possibility of safe connection. It treats the entire world as a minefield. It only feels safe when it is retreating. This filtered reality creates a feedback loop. Sarah acts cold because she perceives coldness. Others then pull away, confirming her original, distorted belief. The machine proves itself right every day. It builds a case against the world. The evidence is fabricated, but the pain it causes is very real. The individual is blind to the beauty of the now. They are too busy monitoring the perimeter of their own carefully constructed, silent, empty world. Leo stands before a mirror. He looks at his reflection. For the first time, he does not see a strong, independent man. He sees a child. The child is still hiding. The man realizes that the walls he built for protection have become the very walls of a cold, lonely prison cell. Awareness does not fix the machine. It simply turns the lights on in the factory. Leo can now hear the gears grinding in his own chest. He notices the tension in his jaw when his phone rings. He sees the way he pulls his arms in when someone walks too close. The perspective shift is subtle but heavy. The brain can no longer pretend that the isolation is a purely logical choice made by a rational adult. It recognizes the unseen machinery as a relic of a past war. The war is over, but the soldier is still crouched in the dark trench. The individual begins to observe the impulse to run. They watch the brain manufacture excuses to cancel plans. They see the lie forming in real time. There is no immediate resolution. The walls do not crumble. The gates do not swing open. The individual simply stands in the center of the ruins. The realization is unsettling. It reveals that the personality was actually a series of survival reflexes. The self is a collection of old, dusty scars. The brain feels exposed. It tries to revert to the old script. It whispers that awareness is a mistake. It screams that safety is only found alone. The individual stays in the discomfort. They do not try to change. They only watch the pattern repeat. They are now an observer of their own. The machinery continues to hum. The isolation remains. But the narrative of freedom has been replaced by the quiet, heavy truth of a long-standing habit. The shift is internal. The world looks the same, but the internal map has been redrawn. The individual knows they are lost in their own house. This new vision is a burden. It strips away the pride of the lone wolf. It leaves only the raw reality of a human being in hiding. Sarah goes to a coffee shop. She sees a regular acquaintance. Her brain immediately triggers the exit strategy. The old, familiar gears begin to turn. She looks at her phone. She pretends to be busy. She feels the physical urge to disappear into the floorboards. The loop is running its course. Despite her new awareness, she cannot stop the reaction. Her nervous system is faster than her logic. The body remembers the safety of the void. The brain prioritizes the old habit because it is proven. New behaviors are risky experiments. The machine prefers the predictable misery of the well-known past. Awareness creates a split in the mind. One part watches the behavior. The other part executes the behavior. The individual becomes a passenger in themselves. The loop is quiet. It does not shout. It just nudges the person back into the corner. It subtly encourages the familiar silence of a lonely life. Sarah leaves the shop without saying hello. She feels a familiar wave of relief. Then, she feels the sting of knowing exactly what she just did. The reward of safety is now tainted by the knowledge of the cost. The brain still gets its dopamine hit, but the soul feels the hunger. The pattern continues because the neural pathways are like deep canyons. The water always flows through the easiest path. Change requires a massive geological shift. The individual watches themselves sabotage a moment of connection. They see the wall go up. They hear the lock click. They are powerless to stop. The machinery is persistent. It has been running for decades. It does not care about growth. It only cares about the survival of the isolated unit. The quiet loop is the ultimate test of the spirit. It is the realization that knowing the problem is not the same as solving the problem. The gears continue to spin. The person remains alone. The awareness sits like a cold light in a dark room, illuminating the same dusty, empty furniture. The cycle of avoidance is a ghost that haunts the hallways of the mind. It is a presence that refuses to leave without a long struggle. Leo stands in the wreckage of his own isolation. He looks into the void and finally sees that the void is a mirror. It is cold. The machinery of his personality is laid bare. He realizes that strength was actually a frantic retreat from the possibility of being truly seen by another. The mirror does not offer comfort. It offers the brutal clarity of a clinical report. The individual is the architect of their own silent, lonely cell. Identity confrontation occurs when the story of the lone wolf collapses. The brain can no longer sustain the lie that this life was a choice. The individual sees the cost of the armor. The armor has protected the heart, but it has also crushed the ribs. The weight is now unbearable. This is the moment the machinery stalls. The gears grind against the reality of human need. The brain struggles to find a reason to remain hidden. The mirror shows a person who has mastered survival but has forgotten how to live. The reflection is a stranger wearing a very old, tired mask. There is no fix in the mirror. There is only the silent acknowledgement of the pattern. The individual faces the hollow core of their own defense. The confrontation is a psychic death. The old self, built on the foundation of childhood silence, begins to wither under the light of this harsh truth. The individual realizes they are both the prisoner and the guard. They hold the keys to the gate, but their hands are frozen by ancient fear. The mirror reflects a history of missed connections and silent rooms. It shows the path not taken. It shows the quiet, steady pulse of a lonely life. The machinery of the mind is ancient and stubborn. It does not change because we wish it to. It only changes when the cost becomes too high. The patterns of childhood isolation are etched deep into the neural tissue. They are the software that runs the hardware of the adult emotional social life. We are all driven by unseen forces. We are all narrators of mechanisms we did not choose. The silence of the past is a very loud ghost. The individual remains in the loop. The wall is still there. The question is whether the wall is a shield or a tomb for the living soul. The brain will continue to prioritize safety over connection. It will continue to prefer the cold over the fire. This is the nature of the beast. The story does not end with a solution. It ends with a question. What happens when the machine finally realizes it is running a program for a ghost? If you have recognized these gears turning in your own chest, you are now an observer. You are the surgeon. You are the witness to your life. The machinery is yours. The silence is yours. The choice to remain behind the glass is yours. But the glass is thinner than it seems to be. Thank you for watching this mechanism unfold. If you find value in these psychological revelations, consider subscribing to the PsyHow channel for more deep insights.